The people were shocked by the revelation they heard. They folded their hands and stared blankly at Chioma, whose tears had soaked the bedspread she was still clutching to her chest. Such a shame. Chike was speechless. He just stared into space and shook his head in utter surprise. Then the old man cleared his throat and directed his question to Chioma's mother. Mama, why did you collaborate with your daughter to kill your son-in-law when you know the truth that to kill is a sin, especially as a deaconess in the church? The woman was sad and unable to speak. She was just crying while facing the ground, unable to look anyone in the eyes. Oh God, Chioma's mother said with grief, shaking her head and sighing. Then she continued, everything my daughter said is true. I was not in support of the whole idea. When she told me she did not love Cassie but his friend, I told her it was a taboo to do so. She was already engaged to Cassie and it wouldn't be proper to abandon him and go for his friend. Then she told me her plan, saying she would marry him and after a few years, she would kill him so that his money and properties would be hers. Then she would marry Chike, his friend. I told her I would not accept it, but my daughter threatened to kill herself. She immediately took out a knife and said she would do it and I would be blamed for her death. Being my only daughter, I was afraid to let her do such a thing. I had to plead with her to stop herself from doing what was wrong and putting me in trouble. As a mother, I told her I would help her, only if she wouldn't let the matter get exposed. Otherwise, we would be in trouble. Then I went to the herbalist who gave me a charm concoction to add to my son-in-law's drink so he would pass away and people wouldn't know the cause of his death. Our whole plan backfired. But unfortunately, and I'm in such regret now, she said, sighing deeply. She bent her head with tears in her eyes. Suddenly, her body shook and she slumped to the ground. The women ran to carry her, but when they lifted her, they found that a whitish, foamy substance was coming out from her mouth. She was convulsing and her eyes were looking upward, showing only the white parts, while the black irises had disappeared beneath her eyelids. The whole scenario was like a drama to them and they were confused. They shouted her name, some clapped her face and others poured water on her in hopes that she would revive. But Chioma's mother's body stiffened and then turned cold. In a flash, her skin turned black as if she had been burnt. At that moment, Chioma's mother gave up the ghost. Everyone screamed. The elders shook their heads. Some called her name and others blamed her, saying it was because she went to the herbalist. Since she was not able to kill the victim, she died instead, and it was true. Flashback. The herbalist had already warned Chioma's mother of the consequences of not following the instructions exactly when mixing the concoction in the victim's drink, which had to be consumed by the intended victim. If by means the target escaped without drinking the concoction, the effect meant for the victim will return on the person who prepared it. Chioma's mother assured him she would follow the plan, but did it work? Back to present, and that was it. Fortunately for Cassie, he escaped death in the blinks of an eye, and now his secret enemy were paying for it. The people carried away Chioma's mother's body while Chioma rolled on the ground, crying bitterly. She was hitting herself and saying she wanted to go with her mother. Chike could not believe everything that was happening. Chike's plans failed because he was planning to kill Chioma with his own hands after she had killed his friend, then taking his properties and money for himself. Because she was not a woman he could marry. She is a bad woman and she's a witch. Because if she were to be a good woman, she won't try to eliminate her husband for another man. That means she could still kill him with a blink of an eye, or she would turn him into her houseboy, which he won't allow. He never loved her a bit. He just took advantage of her at every slight chance he got. But here all his hopes and plans had washed away in a flash. He thought in his mind, The elder who was judging the matter stood up again, snapping Chike from his thoughts with his loud voice. He told Chike that he doesn't need to ask him anything again since they all know how it happened, but he will ask Cassie what his plans are. Cassie stood up after the elder man called him up. He said with hate in him,
"I hate myself for marrying a woman like her. How will I know that she was this evil? Cause there is a saying that says, not all that glitters are gold." I looked at her beauty, her outward appearance, and did not look at her inward appearance. I don't know that her character was so bad. I don't know that her character was so bad to the extent that she could plan to kill me. After all the love we shared together, the money I spent on her, the house I built for us in her name, that after we have our children, we will relocate to the new one. Then we furnish the old one and let it out for rent. But I don't know that she was preparing my death. But God is so good. I came back that day and met her in a conversation with her mother, planning on how to eliminate me. If not, I would not have been here today.
Cassie said, and eyed Chioma, who was still crying her eyes out. Then he said,
"I will not send a divorce letter to Chioma to sign,"
he said, looking at his friend, whose face was facing the ground but behaved as if all was well. He continued,
"And I will bring it to a lawyer tomorrow morning to collect all my documents and sign it out from her name, that she can no longer have access to my properties, and the house he built in her name will be cleaned off with the documents that shows she owns the house."
By now, Chioma could not believe her eyes. She cried and begged Cassie, but he refused, because he had already made up his mind to take away everything she had access to, so she will learn when to have another opportunity again, if she will even have one. Elders concluded, and the secret CID men arrested Chike and took him to their station, so he would sign a surety that he doesn't have any business with the family again, and if anything happens to Mr. Cass, he will be held responsible. When he signed, they left him but promised him that they were watching his every move. Chike left and traveled away from that city to a faraway city during the night to avoid the mockery of his neighbor and the shame of his actions. Chioma left the meeting ground in shame and disgrace after losing her mother in place of Cassie. He was supposed to be the victim, but Chioma's mother took the death of someone else because she wanted to satisfy her daughter's wants and greedy desire. The next day, the lawyer was called to make Chioma sign all the necessary documents that she is not part of Cassie's properties or site. After all the signing and writing, Cassie did not even look at Chioma twice. He quickly brought out a divorce letter and told her to sign it. Chioma was really heartbroken. She broke down in tears. "My husband, please, I'm sorry, and please forgive me for all the wickedness I have done to you. I have regretted all my actions because I was so greedy and I wanted your whole property for myself. I never looked at what will be my gain in the future. I overlooked it, but now here I am with nothing at hand. My mother is dead because of this." Chioma said while crying her eyes out. She had become her own shadow of herself. Just in one day, Chioma had grown lean because of thinking and regret. She quickly took hold of Cassie's trouser, begging him to forgive her. Even if they can't be together, she can't live with him because she won't be able to look him in the eyes. Cassie felt pity for her since he was a gentleman, a cool type, and he did not want anything to happen to his fellow human. He held her by her shoulder and pulled her up from the ground. Her eyes had gone inside while he looked at her face. She was eaten by her own fears and regret. He spoke to her in a thick but calm voice.
"Chioma, for all the times I have been with you, have I for once hurt you in any way? Have I treated you badly? I gave you all you wanted, even if I don't have it at that instant, but I always promise to fulfill what you requested from me, in a few days' time. I never wanted you to suffer, and I gave you all the love I had, but you treated me bad. You planned with my friend and your mother to kill me just for my properties. You had a secret affair with my best friend and still came back to me as if nothing is the problem. God knows all what I have in heart.
God looked at his son, who is faithful to his wife. That's why he let me come back to pick something that is not relevant in the house that morning. If not, I wouldn't be standing here talking. I would have been dead. When people asked how I died, you and your accomplice would say, I fell ill and died. But my God does not want my enemy to eat and drink over my head. He said all this, shaking her by the shoulders while pouring his heart out to her. This made Chioma shiver in fear, goosebumps covering her body. At that moment, she felt like the ground should open up for her so she could be covered by the earth itself. But nothing like that happened. She heard and felt it deep in her soul as Cassie spoke with pain from his heart. She took the pen and signed the divorce papers, and the lawyer, who was an eyewitness, signed to approve the letter. Chioma walked quickly as fast as her legs could carry her away from the office, bowing her head as she walked with tears, both dried and wet, pouring from her eyes. Cassie felt and thought that if he could take everything from her and leave her with nothing, how would she survive now that she was left with nothing? He wouldn't want to hear that she died, even if they were not together anymore. At least she should have something to use to feed herself. He then quickly ran out of the lawyer's office and met Chioma about to enter a cab. He quickly called her name and stopped her from going. Chioma was panicking, fearing he had come again to arrest her or do worse, as she knew she deserved any punishment from him, but she still cherished her life. Chioma, wait! Cassie called as he ran to meet her, his now ex-wife. Chioma told the cabman to wait a minute so she could talk to the man addressing her. The cabman nodded and stopped the car, turning it off. Yes? Is there anything else I could do? She said with fear in her voice, trying to avoid eye contact with Cassie. Not really. Just that I came back to tell you I have forgiven you for all that you have done to me. To me, it might happen to someone else or anyone. No man is righteous in this world, but we don't have to let the things of the world drive us from God's presence. If we do, we fall into the trap of the devil and regret our actions later in life. Cassie spoke while Chioma for the first time looked at the good man before her and realized how she was about to miss him. She recognized that she had thrown away the hand that fed her. Now she understood that the things of the world are just vanity. Someone might fight for houses, lands, companies, and so on, but one can't take it to the grave. It will all perish here on earth. As she was thinking, looking at Cassie with an empty mind, she forgot herself as he was still talking to her. Cassie snapped her from her thoughts and said something she never believed could come out of his mouth. Chioma, I have transferred a sum of 500,000 naira into your account so you could start up a small business for yourself. I still care about you and I don't want you to suffer. Though we can't be husband and wife, we could still be friends and nothing more. The space in the front of my other house is available. You could open a shop there and start your business. From there, you could save to have your own shop. If you want, you can stay there as long as you want until you are okay, Cassie said, happiness and satisfaction showing on his face. Chioma quickly knelt down and thanked Cassie for his kind gesture. Even if she couldn't be his wife anymore, she had surely learned from her mistakes and would live to tell other younger girls so they wouldn't make the mistake of hurting themselves in their future because of greediness and selfishness. Chioma accepted the money, but she refused to accept the shop on his property. She thanked Cassie and waved him goodbye. Then she entered the cab and the driver took off. That was the last time Cassie ever set his eyes on Chioma, his ex-wife. He later heard she left town for another place after her mother was buried, and few people attended the burial. He sent his condolences to Chioma along with some cash again, and after that, he heard she had found someone who wanted to marry her. He prayed that she had already changed for good. 6 to 7 months later, Cassie, who had been watching a young beautiful lady in his company named Eunice, planned to take her out for a date to one of the best restaurants in the area. He decided to take his time this time around and not rush into things. He spoke with Eunice after closing hours at work, and she accepted the offer to go on a date with him. From there, their love story began. 4 months later, he got Eunice engaged, and she, on the other hand, worshipped him with respect and love as the good woman she was. 3 months later, they got married, and not up to 2 months into their marriage, Eunice was pregnant with Cassie's child. His joy knew no bounds. The two lived happily ever after. The end. Share your thoughts on this story. Do you think Chioma deserved what happened to her?